Okay.
Thank you.
I do not know why I moved it. It's okay.
I'll put you in this.
Okay. Oh, did you pin her?
No.
Okay, I'll let everybody in.
If you want to take an ancillary wire.
That's not. I had it
So
on my
are we going to
counseling.
show my desktop? Because right now it's not showing.
We will eventually, once
Yeah.
you,
Once we do the intro. But she wants to know if that shows up, so let's do a test one quick
mhm.
on that camera. And see.
Okay, yep. I can help you with this. There you go.
Whoa.
Does your picture show up or not?
Yes,
Perfect.
it shows up.
Nice.
All right, let's get everybody in.
Do you want that light to be off?
Just
Um,
Admit all.
Okay,
it's not in my.
No, actually, this is lit really well today.
cool.
What do you mean? Okay.
Wonder why,
They're all coming in.
How many?
You've got 21 minus 2.
I can hear you okay as a test.
So you now have 19.
how come we're not, how come this video is not pinned?
It just pinned it.
It's showing the desktop, but it's not showing me,
And then we're just gonna
which
switch
is
camera.
fine.
And then just have everybody mute. There you go.
Is everybody in?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm in.
hi, everybody. Welcome to the last drawing class of the summer for me. There is another drawing class coming up in September, and it is a 2.5-hour drawing class, and it will be on Monday, 9 to noon. And it starts on September 21st, and it goes until November 9th. So if anybody's interested in that, what it's going to be is pretty much the same thing as I've been doing, except more in depth. And because we have more time, we can do a little bit more in-depth compositions and things. But I will be going over different kinds of materials too. So if anybody's interested in that, make sure you let them know here and you can register.
Okay.
Is there anybody who has questions about that? All right, so,
Okay.
all right, does everybody have their reference? Did you get your reference email of the tree? If not, you can follow what I've got here on the tabletop. So if you, can you see this pretty good? Not right now because it's on me.
Yeah, okay.
Is it pinned to the
You are
desktop
pinned?
now?
Nope. I will
Okay.
pin it. I will get you on there right now. We just have to switch cameras.
Okay.
He's right. This mouse isn't working right. There we go.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
All right, so we can see my desktop. Good. All right, we've been talking about composing your picture. What that means basically is we need to be able to fit on our paper what we want as far as the subject matter goes. Because I want the whole tree on here, I have to figure out compositionally how I'm going to fit that on here so I'm not going to lose half the tree or the trunk's not going to be on it. So we need to think about those things before we start drawing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of marks as how big or how wide I want the tree to be. So if you can see, I'm working horizontally. I'm not working on a paper vertically because this gives me more room. So I can make a longer tree. So I've got my two horizontal marks. And at this point in time, I'm doing it kind of like a sculpture. I'm just kind of chiseling out and very roughly where I want my tree to be. And then I can go back in and I can fix it to make it more the shape of what this tree looks like. So if I know that's how wide I want to make the tree, now I need to figure out, well, how tall is the tree going to be? So what I do is I look at it comparatively. I compare the length or the width of this tree to how tall I want it to be. So I know that I'm going to just use my pencil and measure that I want it to, the tree is that long. But of course, mine is bigger on my piece of paper because I'm making it bigger than here. So what I need to do is do a comparative measurement. So there, this is how wide the tree is. And you can see that it's not as tall as it is wide. And I would say it's probably 1/4 of an inch, not as high or not as wide. So I'm going to take 1/4 of an inch off of this, approximately a little bit more because it's bigger. So I'm going to say right about here. So I'm going to say that's how tall my tree is going to be. And I'll make a mark, and I'll make a mark. Now I need to know where the middle of this is. As you can see, that tree is not a straight up tree. It goes crooked. There's an angle to the trunk. So we don't want to make it a straight up trunk. We're going to put an angle on it. So what I'm doing is it's going to help me to make middle marks on here, because I know that that tree starts at the middle and it goes at an angle. So I'm just going to judge approximately where the middle center line is. And if you are really good with your eyes, you can kind of judge that. If not, you can do another comparative. So I would say,
Can everybody see okay? Just give me a thumbs up.
so that's approximately half.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to measure. If I think that's the halfway point, then I'm going to measure over here, and I did it just about perfectly. So you can just do a comparative measurement from one side to the next, see if they're approximately the same. Don't worry about these lines because we can erase them as we go. If you notice, when I put my pencil down, that trunk is on, it starts at the inside of that center mark, and it goes up. So that's the angle, and it's probably a little bit too much of an angle, but there's an angle there. Now we need to figure out where the trunk comes, how high it is up here. So I'm going to look at where the tree trunk stops and where the leaves of the tree start. And I'm going to mark it right here. And I can see, again, at the top of the tree, the leaf area is taller than the trunk area. So I'm going to, I figure it's probably another 1/4 of an inch, but not quite. So I'm going to say approximately, maybe a little bit more. What if I did a halfway mark here? If I did a halfway mark here, that trunk is almost to the halfway point, if that's the halfway mark. Let's see. You can get pretty good at comparative measuring. Yeah, it's about halfway. So that makes it a little bit easier. We can say it's another halfway mark here. Measure to make sure that it's halfway. It's about halfway. So the tree trunk stops about here. But you can see there's some lower branches. So we're just going to do a real rough, kind of chiseled looking, and you can see that this is a triangle, which is pretty easy, and it's kind of symmetrical, pretty much. Tree's not centered, tree trunk's not centered. But we're just going to go down, and this is going to be very rough. And these branches are about, let's say about here. And just kind of do it real sculpturally. And don't worry about your marks so much, because again, like I said, you can erase them. As long as you don't draw too dark. So that's our basic shape of our tree. Get that triangle look in there. We're going to work on our trunk a little bit. Bring it up. There's a branch here that goes off to the side and up. And you know, with trees, I'm not so worried about proportion with them, but it's good to get in practice of figuring out proportions. Because if you ever work with animals or people, you need to know this, these skills. So I'm just going to quick kind of draw these in. There's this kind of a rounded branch that comes out over here and then goes down. And these two branches are pretty close together. It's just looking at things carefully. You can see, and even looking at these shapes in between the trees, branches, those are called negative space. So when you're never sure about if you've got a branch or a person's face or an animal in the right place, look at the spaces around it. The negative spaces will always help you get things proportionately correct. I love negative space. I work with it all the time. It really helps me figure things out. So we're just going to keep bringing those branches up. You don't have to be perfect, especially not now when we're just starting out. And we're just going to get the basic branches in. Take a look at it. Do some more measuring if you need to before you move on. We can give it a little hill down here because it needs to be anchored to something. We can come back in later and we can do our little grass marks. Very simple.
So right here, we're gonna add some butt hair then.
Another thing that's really fun and really helps a tree look like a tree, and you probably laugh at me, but there are these things that I call tree holes. They're the little spaces in between the branches and the leaves. I call them tree holes. When you get those in, it really gives a lot of realism to your tree. Even these spaces up here. And you have the little branches that come out, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So I'm going to say halfway, I'm going to look to see where that tree hole might be. It's a little above this halfway mark. And I'm just going to roughly put it in where I think it might be. That can change, we can erase. But I just want to make sure it's there so I don't forget.
We want to double up that horizontal line. And that one is going to come out right about here.
And there's another one that's kind of over here.
Now, run this.
The one thing we want to try to do with the tree is keep it wispy. And to do that, we're going to start, let me fix this a little bit. I want to get the shape here in before I forget, because I don't want to bring anything over that. So there's a little notched in area here where the tree is. And then we'll worry about these little other spaces as we go along. But that one's important, so I wanted to put it in. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go sideways with the pencil. And we're going to just start, giving it a value. I'm going to try to work away from the tree holes, leave them open a little bit. Any of the other ones that I see that are here that may not be major ones, I can go back in and erase those. So as we go, I've been talking about pressure on your pencil. We're going to give this a medium value. Now, when In the center is going to be a little darker, and as we move out, we can lighten the pressure on our pencil so where it's kind of wispy at the edges. It's very soft. And as we go along, we're going to make some of these little branches that go up. But we'll do it very soft at the edge.
So from here, we're going to create a curved line.
And another thing I like to do as we get going too, when we get a little bit darker through here, is instead of doing it all one value, we're going to do darker spots. Just little spots that make it darker. Because we don't want to get rid of that. We want the feel of a tree. And those are the leaves. And we're not going to do each leaf. We're going to make it look like there's leaves. So lighter on the edges. We can always darken those up if we want. So wherever you see those little branches coming out, make little spots. And I can show you that you can come back in. And if you've done it too far, you don't like it, and it's very light, you can just remove it. And then you can get those little spaces. Those spaces are important in making our tree look like a tree. Some of you can work faster. I'm trying to go at a little bit slower pace so I don't lose anybody. But if I do, please let me know. You can come back on if you have a question. But we want a nice medium tone. See, it's getting kind of nice and wispy in this area. And that's what we want. We want it to look wispy. And you can see that this dark, really dark branch, when we go back in to do some of the darker values, it's almost halfway. So that's kind of nice to show these little halfway marks because you can follow to see where the branches are in the tree. Helps a little bit more. Now this area down in here, there's not a lot of leaves here. So we're gonna make it really wispy down there.
Okay, now from here, we are going to, hang on, sorry. So we're gonna do a diagonal line that kind of comes back and up. Right there.
We can draw in some of these branches a little bit. We know that this is a dark one here, and it's about halfway. And I'm gonna kind of make this dark area go over here to where that branch is. There's a dark branch there.
Yes, I knew it! Oh, come on, Sarah, Aura.
Can they hear all that over there?
Yeah, they can.
We have other classes going on.
So from here.
Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing to this side.
So it's just gonna have another little.
And even if you go over these spots here, you can bring them back out. If you're not going too hard, too much pressure, then you can bring those back out again.
Why doesn't it look so cute?
I'm trying to get my hand to settle down a little bit.
Pardon me? Oh.
I'm jumping all over the place.
I was like,
Don't be worried about making this a little bit darker, especially in the center, and Just stay away from the edges a little bit.
So from, we'll go right about here. Okay, from here, we're just gonna make, oh my, baby, hang on. Ooh, markers are testing me today.
So if you notice, I am still using light pressure, and I'm bringing these little branchy things out from the tree. And again, I said they don't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to take a picture of this tree and say, oh no, that branch is in the wrong place. As long as it looks like a tree, that's what we're going for. And we want it to be an interesting tree. And these little branches and things really help make it a pretty tree.
Now inside of this little,
You can see that this one has a lot more leaves on this side of the tree down here. So we can add more values here and not be as wispy as over there. And there's also kind of an indentation right there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting in some of these dark values, especially the trunk, so we can see where we're at. If you look at the trunk, it's actually the darkest value that we have.
Now, from right up here, it's just going to curve down to about there. And then you want to make the little spiky things on the inside again. Okay? So these ones you can kind of make however.
Usually when I'm drawing at home, I don't draw straight up on top of my picture. I usually hold my pad up like this and draw. It's a lot easier to see. It's a lot easier to get the correct proportion instead of looking down on top of your picture.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't like drawing on top of things. I like to draw it. And I'll even put things on an easel so I can see them better.
Okay, well, one of the ladies in here does have hers on an easel.
Yeah, it's a good way to work. It helps whenever you can get back and look at your drawing, you get away from it, you can see it a lot better. Okay, so let's get in some of these darker. And you can use your pencil point if you want to, or you can continue using the side, but we're going to get it pretty dark. You can also, at this point, pick up one of your darker pencils. I don't know, if some of you are new to the drawing class, you have pencils come in different darknesses and lightnesses. And if it's a B pencil, it means black, which means it's a softer pencil, it will draw darker. And the higher the number, the softer and the darker that pencil will be. This is a 4B. I have a 5B, I also have an 8B, and they can get pretty dark without having to put multiple layers. It's nice to have a variety of pencils.
Now on the end of this line right here, we're going to put a little sideways.
You can see that some of the darkness actually goes up and into this tree. It doesn't just stop right there. And also there's probably little leafy shapes that come out. So this shape isn't perfect. You might have some little leaves, very light. Check your negative spaces too. When I'm drawing, I'm always checking my negative spaces to see if that space matches this space. That will tell me if my drawing is proportionate, if it's going the right direction, my tree's the right shape, or whatever your subject matter is.
Now coming off of plot number 2, we want to do a slight curve this way. Just a slight curve. There. Yep. And then in
This trunk, because it's a black and white, it looks black. I mean, it's really dark. And because it's a photograph, if you were to work in reality and actually just be outside drawing a tree, you'd see more detail on the trunk. But this this black and white drawing has just, or photograph has just kind of gotten rid of the detail in the trunk. There was like a branch that was cut off here, but you couldn't see it very well unless I made it too light to even draw. So I'm kind of remembering where that branch was. I'm going to leave a little space there, a little bit lighter. You can make it up if you want. So this branch, there are branches that come here and continue over, but you can see that they're very muted because of all the leaves that are in front of them. These have very straight lines because there's not branches or other leaf that are muting them. But over here, all these branches that are here are being muted by the leaves that are around them. So it doesn't have to be perfectly sharp edges. In fact, we don't want sharp edges there. So we're just going to be darkening it, but we're darkening it more all over, working into the leafy area of the tree. Working it all the way over here because that's where it's really dark. So if you start dark by a lot of pressure on your pencil and then you lighten it as you move out, it will blend. You'll have more transition. So it's not a real sharp edge like these are. So here's some more branches that are dark that are creating those tree holes that are there. Is everybody laughing at me with my name for the tree holes?
No.
It's kind of a funny name.
So from elbow pitch, we're going to create a curved line. We're going to
So keep making some of those branches in here dark.
and then this curved line is going to come way out
Look to where they meet the other branch.
to your arm. Okay.
And there is another branch that shoots off of here. It goes over this direction. Some really fun branches here. Do you have to get them all? No. Just if you show some, everybody will go, oh yeah, I see tree branches. Looks like a tree.
Okay, so off of the end of our number 7. This we want to start on the end of our number 7. Okay, so off of the end of our number 7, we're going to make a series of sideways triangles or sideways letter D's and make them skinny. Okay, and then it's just going to connect right to the arm.
You can even do like little circular,
This is hair.
because those will also make it look.
And then right down.
Texture is really fun to use when you're using when you're doing your shading. This is really dark in here. It almost disappears.
So right here, we're going to do a slight curve. Maybe you can want a little drop.
So if we run over a little bit,
There we go.
are you okay, Tom? If we run
Yes,
over a little bit?
absolutely.
Okay, if we run over a little bit and we don't have time to finish this, I'm just going to keep drawing. And any of you that want to stay, you can. We kind of had to get a late start today.
And then you're going to make those little spikes or V's or triangles, however you want to think of them. So that's all fluff. All of this is fluff. There is a
The one thing that's really important about getting something wispy and nice like a tree, you don't want to have a lot of sharp lines. You want to have it soft.
yeah.
You can put in a darker line and it's sharp and you can go over it
Okay.
with your pencil to
Here, what
mute it a little bit.
and we're just going to bring another little line that comes up. Sorry, not at that much of an angle. There we go. That much of an angle.
Okay, so I'm going to work over here.
Yep, there's no angle.
Another fun thing to do
This right here
you can draw with your eraser to get,
Small sideways V.
to figure out where you want your darker darks to be. And what I mean by that is I can take my eraser and I can say, oh, there's a little light area right here.
Now this is gonna start curving around.
And it kind of shows the spots where
Obviously don't.
there should be light areas and darker areas. This is going to help me figure out where I want those dark areas and where I want the light areas, because
So
I mean, there's a lot of stuff here you have to try to figure out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get some of that in.
line right there.
And it can take a while to do this.
End of this line, we are going to curve up.
And I'm going to say there is some dark area here. And you really need to get those darks. I mean, if this was a faraway tree, what we have now would probably be fine. But because it's close up, we have to show a little bit more detail. Let's say it's the focal point of your picture.
Now we don't want.
Then you want to show detail. Now, if it was far away and you were using it in a landscape in the background, what we have here is pretty close to just being fine for a background tree.
Our elbow.
So I know this area here is very dark.
Okay, now we're not done with it. I know, right? There's a lot of fluff here. So right in this little spiky. Obviously do your
And you can also do these little spots.
okay?
Instead of trying to be perfect, you can do little spots because that's where it shows kind of these boughs.
Right there. Now it has like a little shine in its hair. The shine in its hair goes right on this little.
Can you see those little bough areas,
So all we have
little
to do
spots of darkness?
is like making a circle right there. And
We're
then
just
we
kind of
have
roughly putting some of that in.
one at the end.
And then we can go over it if it's still too light. And when you go over it, you're not going to lose the dark spots. They're just going to get darker,
This way,
which is really fun to watch.
this way, and then it's gonna come out.
And then I'm just going to kind of put some little spots here and there.
Around, right back in. Now we have our little pieces. Okay, put on there.
Okay, now this center of this tree is much darker than the outside areas. So I want to make sure I get this nice darkness in here. But I don't want to lose
I think she
the
was on-
texture of the tree.
Right?
So I'm going to continue just putting in a little bit more texture,
And the face.
some little spots here and there.
Okay. So,
And I don't want to use a blender when I'm done with this,
what we wanna do is
because what it'll do is it'll just get rid of all those nice little dark spots that you put in to indicate leaves.
So from here, we want to add some little fuzzy hair.
Does anybody have any questions? If you can, if you want, you can unmute and ask me any questions.
So from here,
Yes, I have a question.
Okay,
Is it possible the camera could zoom in on your drawing? Because it's, on my computer, it's
fuzzy?
real clear.
Yeah. Can this get any clearer? Is it,
Can
Do
they
you know?
zoom in on it closer?
can we get in
Well,
closer on it?
You can lift it up and show them. But we don't have a zoom capability on that.
Oh, that helps.
You see how I'm doing those little spots here and there?
Yes.
Yeah, that just kind of indicates boughs and leafy areas.
Okay.
got a little.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. I can really see it better now.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to continue doing that. And this area here is darker. And there's some little dark areas over here that I want to get to that are around those tree holes. So I'm just going to darken them, but I'm making them spotty. I'm not making them like sharp lines. They're just kind of spotty. Because remember, our objective here is to keep it wispy. It needs to look like a tree. If I do that. Does anybody need to see the photo reference? I can put it closer like that. Does that help? Okay.
Okay.
We can make some intestines falling out.
Oh, that sounds awful. Did you hear that? They must be working on Halloween over there. Intestines falling out.
Oh. You should have heard the conversation last week.
Okay, so I got some nice spots in there. Little leafy spots. You don't have to put in everything, just enough so it's noticeable as a tree.
He's straining, trying to get those legs. So from here, we'll
So every once in a while, I can just bring a little leaf out.
right there.
Now, I still need to get this darker. So I'm going to continue to go over it. And you'll notice as I go over it, it darkens even the dark spots. So,
From that knee, you're gonna make a diagonal line.
and then you can go back in and darken them up a little bit more.
And then
But there's some really dark areas here, and I want to catch those because they're really important.
very subtle, not just
And I'm kind of following those little lines that I put in of dark areas.
very subtle.
Just kind of following some of the shapes that are in here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but what is important is that we do get some darker values and some lighter values.
And then we're gonna curve. We're gonna go down this way. Just like that.
So these dark areas are really important to make it look like a boughs in the tree.
Right about here, we're gonna create our sideways smile. And then from here, we wanna create our first claw. Our toe. Now we do, yes. Wow.
And this tree hole over here, it's kind of big, so I want to just bring out some little leaves in it, just a little bit. So it's not a perfect shape, I just want it to blend in with the tree. Because the leaves, it's just an opening in the leaves. So it needs to look leafy. Now I have some lines here at the edge where I did my rough sketch. I'm gonna get rid of some of those. Clean it up a little bit. But I want to leave those little branchy things there. And you can make more little spaces if you want. Like there was a space here that I pretty much covered it up, but I'm going to go over here a little bit more and give it a little tree hole there.
You got a thumbs up from Katie.
Oh. Thank you, Katie. Really hard to see with the light on here. See what I'm doing?
Which ones?
I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's this one. Yes. Oh, perfect. Now I can see what I'm doing. It's really hard drawing and showing people what to do if you can't see what you're doing. So that's much better. So you can see I'm kind of developing the darks in here. So we have some darks, we have some midtones, and then that gets lighter to the edges where the leaves are. And I'm running out of pencil on this. On my pencil. And you can put in some dark spots here. They don't have to be perfect. We just wanted to indicate boughs and leaves, and we want it to look tree-ish. Tree-ish.
So from here, we're going to do
I'm also going to remove these lines here.
And then we're gonna come up.
Because I didn't draw real dark, they're easy to remove with my kneaded eraser. If your lines are too dark and you have a good eraser on the end of a regular pencil, school pencil, you can use that. Or you can use your pink pearl to try to get rid of them. The thing I don't like about the pink pearl is it's just so big. It doesn't come to a fine point. But I have heard that you can cut these in pieces and make little pieces where you can get into tighter and closer areas. But the reason I like the kneaded is because you can just make it a pointed shape and then go into those little areas and remove what you don't want. You can even push on it just to lighten it. And it will remove the eraser, the pencil. There is still a little branch here.
Yeah. So right at the end of this toe or at the back here, we're going to draw
So how are your trees coming?
horizontal line. So from this one, you're gonna want.
Anybody finished yet?
And then this is where
We're
you're.
happy with what they've got?
So or blah. However you wanna look at that. Then you're gonna do another little horizontal line. And then this one.
I'm kind of disguising some of these branches that we put in because I don't want them to stand out so much. But I want you to be able to see them and indicate that, oh yeah, that's a branch. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be really, really visible. Be just slightly visible to indicate that it is a branch. You can bring this other little branch down if you want. You don't need all this stuff, but if you want it, this can be darker over here. How are we doing on time, Tom?
It's almost 1:45.
We got plenty of time.
So from our.
Wow,
This leg.
It's actually 1:43.
we are doing great. I hope everybody's doing great, moving along. And if you have questions,
And then it's gonna kind of come out for some size, so make like a letter B that you stretch out. So it's nice.
and I'm just kind of continuing putting in these little spots of dark to indicate that there's
So then we're
boughs
gonna bring this line up a little bit,
and leaves.
and then we're gonna connect it right into our body.
And this can be darker on this side of the tree. I'm looking, if you squint and look at the tree, look to see where your darkest values are. And most of them are right in here and right here. And of course your tree trunk. So really our lightest area, probably at the top and a little bit over here. So this edge here, if you notice when on my drawing, that it really, you don't, there's dark here, but it doesn't go all the way out to these leaves. And it probably should be darker out farther. So you can continue to build. And again, if you just go sideways over what you've already drawn, you're not going to lose it. What you're going to do is just darken all of it. And if you have made something darker than you want it, you can take your kneaded eraser, if you have one, and just push on it on top of the pencil drawing. And it will pull out the pencil, the graphite. I love kneaded erasers. I hope everybody has a kneaded eraser because they are so cool. Just little spots to darken it and to indicate that there is leaves, that there are leaves. And see how kind of pretty and wispy our tree is becoming? And if you look at the tree holes, they should be white. Everything else on your tree that indicates that it's leaves should have a value to it. And we can bring in some more tree holes over here that really got kind of covered up a little bit and brighten them up by removing some of the pencil.
When you're naturally plotting something about who you're fighting, that's gonna do absolutely nothing.
Some of these shapes, I really want to take the sharpness out of them
So, I talk about my plot.
because this area is covered with leaves.
That makes no sense. But then we're given about 5 seconds later, how, when somebody.
I don't like to use a lot of sharp lines, especially with natural things, nature, because you don't see lines so much. You see values and lights and darks and how they bump up against each other and create the image. Now, normally tree trunks would be darker in the center, I would think, unless the light is coming. We could decide that the light is on top, which it probably is. The whole tree trunk would be darker. So I'm going to put a darker shadowy area in the center to kind of indicate maybe it's rounded. And on the edge of some of these branches.
I'm gonna attack you with a scary face. That's one of the moves. Scary face. You're gonna make a scary face and that's gonna do damage to you.
Kind of give it a little something more interest.
Okay.
And I'm going to continue making some of these darks even darker. And I'm now using my pencil point to get it even darker. But I'm still not working with sharp lines. I'm working with spots. Does anybody want to have a drawing that they want to show yet? Anyone done? You can unmute and show your work.
Unmute like that. And then
Can you see that?
Oh yeah, nice Rose.
Thank you.
And I
Oh, is that
see,
it?
who's this? John?
John.
John. Okay, good, good. All right, Amanda, nice. Okay. Lori, you could put in some more darks. I love how you did your little spots to show leaves and bowers, but I think you need
Okay.
some darker values in there too.
Okay.
John,
Yeah.
you gotta unmute because I couldn't hear you.
Have to,
Let's see, trying to show it. There's the camera.
Lift it up and just put it in front of your camera. Kylie, I didn't see what you put up. Did you put your picture up?
Something is strange here. No, why don't we?
No, I don't see it.
The
Oh,
video
there we
go.
go. Good. Is that Ivan?
No, it's Linda.
Van? Nice.
Make-
tree.
L.M. Van Arsdale.
Okay, Van Artsdale. Linda.
Yes.
Hey, I like your tree. Looks nice. You got some good values in there.
Thank you. You know, I have a weakness for trees.
I know. I had to make sure I got one of these drawings in for you.
Thank you.
there's mine.
Oh, Ivette. Nice. Ooh, Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
got some nice dark values in there. Good, good. And tree holes. So, you know how, you can see how I've been building up, and you can continue to build up and make it darker if you think it needs it. Just continue to look at your photo reference and build up until you get it where you think it's right, until you think it's dark enough. And you will see stuff all the time. I mean, at first, you don't see so much, but as you go along and the more you draw it, the more you pay attention to the shapes and the values, the more you're going to see. So if you did this drawing again, you would see it a lot differently. And it's always fun to compare those first sketches with the second one and the third one.
So my camera's turned around, but enjoy.
Who is talking?
John Wilson.
John,
John, hi John. Did you show us your drawing?
trying to, my camera was turned around before. I
Hang on a
think I
minute,
have it
John.
here.
Let's see.
Right here.
Oh, John, nice. I love how you got that fun shape on your tree. You could use some more mid-tone values because you've got some really nice darks and lights, but you kind of need some more mid-tones in there.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good. I'm going to bring this up. Yeah. See how I'm working more darks in here? I've got this area here. It's not showing up very well, is it?
No.
It makes it look a lot lighter than it is.
Yeah, that's going to happen on all these LCD screens all across the board.
Well, when I'm doing the next drawing class, I will be home on my Mac. And it will be a lot clearer. The camera.
What?
Yeah.
That's
I have a question. Do you spray your pencil drawings when you're done with anything?
You should spray your pencil drawings because they will rub. And if you keep them in your sketchbook, you'll notice that the next page it touches will have a shadow of your drawing. So it's always a
What do you
good
use?
idea to spray. They have sprays out there just for that. When I'm in a tight pinch, I'll use Aqua Net's hairspray. If it's the only thing I have. And I keep some on hand. The thing about sprays is they stink. And if you're going to use them, make sure you go outside and do it. An area in your garage or something for it, because they are very stinky. And I don't like smelling any of that stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? How are we doing on time? Where are we at?
5-2.
Oh,
I have a question. Will we be working on the grass or the
yes, I was just gonna say, we probably need to get that grass in there, huh?
kind of anchor that tree a little bit? Yeah.
Right, and if you follow the drawing here, it's basically just, you don't have to put a lot of time into it.
They can't see what you're doing.
Oh. So here's you remember I put the hill in at the very beginning, and I'm just going to indicate very lightly and very sketchy some grass. Doesn't have to be perfect. You don't even have to really look at the picture. To just put in some, you can bring some up higher than that little hill at the tree. And then there's a lighter space here. You can kind of do this. You can do it sideways. Maybe there was a deer lying there. So it got squashed down. But it's better not to do all straight up and down like this. go sideways. Make it interesting.
I told you, I don't try and trick you all the time. That's the. There's a lot of them with a big mouth.
And I think that's good enough. And then make sure you sign it. And you can remove fingers, finger smears. You can clean up some of those little lines, the sketchy lines. I wouldn't make it perfect. I don't like it real perfect. I think it's more interesting if you leave it not so sharp. So I'm just cleaning up my little smears and any of the pencil lines that I started out with that I don't want. And I think we're pretty much done. You could put in some more tree holes if you want. I've noticed there's one here.
Michaela's iPad said thank you.
Well, thank you for all joining us today. I hope you learned something or just had a good time drawing. And maybe we'll see some of you. Maybe we'll see some of you in the fall. I hope so. Anyways, take care, everyone. Keep safe.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'd like
Bye.
Thank you.
that.
Sure. Just take that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you for joining. It's been fun this summer. I know a lot of you have come back. What?
This one over there now, on top of it, it's fine. Just put it on top when they want to view
Okay.
before and after.
It's not very bright. It's not very,
No, I'm gonna talk to him because this should be sharper than that.
yeah, that's pretty bad.
Okay. We are done.
Okay.